Welcome to the Retail Tech Podcast, where we talk about the full spectrum of technologies and implementation used in omnichannel and online retail. Make sure to subscribe to our newsletter at retailtechpodcast.com, and we always look forward to your feedback. Today I'm speaking with Bridget Johns, a head of marketing and customer experience at RetailNext. Hi, Bridget, how are you?
Hi, good, Darius. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me. I saw your article about the reaction of the market to the new development from Amazon called the Amazon Go store, and with what Retail Next's expertise and products are in the actually in-store technologies. I was really interested to learn more as far as what you thought about what's going on. So can you tell us a little bit about what is Retail Next, and then how this, what is Amazon Go?
Sure, I'm happy to. So RetailNext is a retail IoT company with a specific focus on optimizing shopper experience for physical retail locations. We've been in the market for about 9 years, and we've built a platform of technologies that allow retailers to drive operational performance, marketing engagement, omnichannel initiatives, etc. All with the objective of creating this magical shopper experience that I think consumers are really looking for. So when we saw the news on Amazon Go, it was no surprise to us that Amazon was taking this sort of strong leadership position around creating a new type of retail. I think that a lot of legacy retailers have been looking for ways to do this, and in some ways have been testing lots of different initiatives. But of course, with the might of Amazon, you can really start from the ground up and build something that is very unique and special and innovative in the marketplace.
Right. So, we all know that Amazon started basically disrupting the local retail store. And now we see that Amazon is actually going in and testing the different types of even bookstores. And now this, why is Amazon going back to the local retail?
Yeah, so I think that we've seen a lot of innovation over the past couple of years with many kind of digital disruptors going back to physical stores and physical locations. If you think about like Warby Parker and Bonobos and Rent the Runway, they're all kind of digitally native brands that have had a lot of success in opening physical locations. I believe part of that is because the consumers still want to shop in physical stores, number one. Number two is when you think about driving, specific category growth and engagement with shoppers, you have to have a way to engage with them. So grocery is a bit of I would say it's a bit of a opposite example, I guess, because you know that you need food and grocery and those type of items. But when you think about the connection that you want to make with shoppers, a lot of times that first relationship that you have with a shopper is in person. It's a physical exchange. So we've seen this happening across other sectors of retail. So it's no surprise to me that Amazon also wants to be in that game.
Okay, right. And I mean, the amount of data, Amazon is so good in taking advantage of data that that can definitely be, transported over to the local or the physical retail, where there is a lot of data that can be useful in helping the
Yeah.
customer and also, optimizing the sales.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that, one of the things that holds legacy retailers back from really pushing more innovation into their stores is this like legacy IT infrastructure. So they've invested, heavily over the years on their point of sale systems and their merchandising systems and their BI tools and all of these things. And it's very hard to walk away from those investments and make, hard choices about technology that might be available today that wasn't available 3 or 4 years ago, as well as technology that better meets what shoppers are looking for today. Amazon, of course, is not held back by any of those legacy systems.
Right. So for people that might not know in more detail what exactly is Amazon Go, it is a new concept of a totally self-service grocery store, correct?
Yeah, that's right. And there are many people who have been playing with this notion of automatic checkout and self-service within grocery for many, many years. So the idea that grocery needs to be reinvented and that it should be more of a self-service environment is certainly not new. What Amazon has done is it has invested pretty heavily in the technology that is required to create this type of an experience. So as we understand it, and remember the concept has not been open to the public yet, so we haven't actually seen it, but from people we've talked to and what we've read and seen in popular press, and from what we know about technology here at RetailNext, we believe it's a combination of and pretty extensive video implementation, as well as an RFID implementation that allows for the full understanding of shoppers and where they go in the store, most likely through video, as well as the RFID tagging that is associated with each of the products. So as you shop, your items are cataloged to both your digital and your physical shopping basket, and then when you leave, you are checked out automatically with what they are terming their what they've developed to allow you to just walk out of the store. Their just walk out technology that allows you to leave the store without having to physically interact with anyone.
Okay. So the concept of, as you mentioned, the concept of automated checkout or self checkout is not new. Amazon is just taking it to the full store level. Uh, Typically, the challenge is for the retailer, are we actually catching the right products, and are people actually paying for every item that they're leaving the store with?
Yeah,
Um,
I think that as with retail, the devil is in the details, and I think that those are some of the questions that have certainly been asked to us, and that I'm sure Amazon is working to optimize within their environment. As you and I have talked about previously, there is certainly a lot of technology that allows you to measure shoppers in a very precise way. So if you have full video coverage of your store, you can certainly understand where every shopper goes, where they spend time, which fixtures they interact with, et cetera, et cetera. This is a technology that RetailNext has perfected over the length of our business, and we're constantly employing in our customer locations to help answer a lot of questions about shopper movement. So we believe that piece of it is fairly well solved. On the other side, in terms of product movement, there's been a lot of advancement in RFID technology and real-time product tracking within store. We believe that is still less mature than the video applications. And I think that, within the details of making absolutely sure that what you think is in that shopper's basket is what's actually in the basket is, my guess is that's where a lot of the Amazon development work is happening right now, to make sure that you don't have false positives, because that is, of course, a financial and a public relations disaster in the making.
right. And then, the other side of it is that really, what is the benefit for the shopper of doing this? Is it making their life easier? Is it making their life harder? How big of a pain is this for the shopper to go to a grocery store, pick stuff up, and I guess just waiting in line to pay, right? That's the biggest pain they're removing.
Yeah. And I think that is it is a big pain point in grocery, because people tend to shop at the same time. So if you go to your local grocery store on a Saturday afternoon, you're probably going to have to wait in line. And nobody wants to do that. If you think about, I think one of the best parallels is Starbucks consumer app that they have, really perfected over the years. And it is so awesome to walk into your Starbucks and just walk to the counter and pick up your coffee and go.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's so for coffee, definitely. I agree with that. Groceries, I guess it depends where you go, and there's definitely that sense of it. But sometimes what I think is that retailers might do something that benefits them more than the customer, and then maybe in the process add more complexity to how the customer. Like right now, I go to when I go to Home Depot or Lowe's, they have these self checkouts, and there's one person trying to help 5 or 6 different people, and sometimes you have to wait just as long to get something help on something, even on the self checkout process.
Yeah,
So
for sure. And I think that's one of the areas that we spend a lot of time talking to our clients about is making sure that the problems that you're solving within your retail environment are the problems that are getting in the way of your shoppers having the optimal experience. So the checkout process, for example, in a lower traffic, maybe a higher price point type environment like specialty apparel, is probably less of a problem than your inventory management and making sure you have the right sizes in the store for the customers or the shoppers who are looking for those items. So when you think about where you're going to invest your capital and bandwidth, I do believe that you're right. You have to make sure that you're solving the problems that are really friction points for your shoppers before you start getting too clever with um, uh, deploying technology that is available, but maybe that doesn't address real issues.
yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely the developments are definitely positive. It wasn't like a negative comment about. I'm actually happy that Lowe's and Home Depot are testing and going into that area. Without testing and without learning, and we're not gonna know for sure anyway. So but I think it is really important to also keep track of and think about how does this actually help the customer and when does it, in what situation. So now let's talk about a little bit more about what RetailNext does. I see that you mentioned about the video as far as the shopper movement part. Can you tell me a little bit more about that part?
Yeah, so essentially we create and integrate any kind of sensor technology data that might give you insight into how shoppers are navigating the store. So if you think about Google Analytics, we do very similar types of analytics for physical locations. So and we use video as a key input for sure. We also use Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and RFID and other technologies to help gather the data. But if you imagine the full kind of shopper funnel, as we might call it, how many shoppers pass in front of your store? Do they stop at your windows? Do they come into your store? When they come into your store, do they go right? Do they go left? Do they go straight ahead? Where do they engage with product? Do they, pick up product and try it on? Do they take it to the fitting room? And ultimately, do they transact in your store? We really seek to give retailers the data that can help them optimize every step along the way.
So the video is, I'm assuming these are cameras located in specific parts of the store, or watching and recording all activity within the store, correct?
Yeah, so we do measurement within, whatever areas we're seeking to optimize. So the most easy example is entrance traffic counting. So understanding with great precision how many people come into and out of your store and what times of the day that may happen. Um, but then you can take that same technology and you can start to stitch cameras together to understand the tracks of the customers throughout the entire store. Obviously in an anonymous and aggregated way, but understanding that movement within the store can can unlock some pretty powerful insights about, what might be getting in the way of your shoppers' experiences.
Right, right. Higher traffic areas, for example, if you have a display and people actually spend more time in front of the display, what does it actually mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Or, queues at the fitting room on a Saturday morning, or, you know,
Right.
people waiting in line to transact once they've made their decisions, things like that.
Okay. And you mentioned it's all anonymized. So that was my next question is you're not actually like doing face recognition and connecting that to a specific customer.
No, that's right. So most everything we do is at the anonymous and aggregate level. When we have an engagement with a customer where a shopper specifically says it's okay for you to understand something about what I'm doing in store, either through, guest Wi-Fi or a mobile application or whatever it is, there's an additional layer of information that we can utilize, but um, in most cases, the retailers and the shoppers aren't at that level of comfort yet. So we, work pretty hard to make sure that everything we do is anonymous and aggregated.
Okay. Yeah, that's a very interesting question, I think, for everybody is that how much information are we willing to give to receive some benefit from the
Yeah,
retailers?
the reality is that the information that you can gather in a physical location without a shopper specifically saying they want to give that to you is minuscule in comparison to what the online players can gather about you through your kind of digital footprint.
Which is also without the shopper giving permission to them.
Yeah, in some cases.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, with the cookie or, pixels, they can track you everywhere pretty
Yeah.
much. So, I mean, so this is an area I was talking to doing an interview yesterday with another company, and we're talking about retail, and people. I think it's true that 90% of retail is still physical, but the fact that we keep telling ourselves that it's not a guarantee that it's going to stay like that. So retailers sometimes, just so that we don't freak out about the online commerce taking over everything, we keep saying that to each other. But the bottom line is that if you don't innovate right now, that number is going to keep changing. So that's where the
Agree.
the data, it has to be used correctly. The retailers have to invest and continue on that process. Don't just rest because you're still at 90%.
Yeah, and I think that as retailers, we have to give shoppers a reason to get out of their car and walk down the street and walk into your store. Because it's so much easier to do it from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. I think, mobile has been a big disruptor last holiday and this holiday for sure. And I believe there is a tremendous amount of value in physical locations and in that experience of really surprising and delighting your customers. But if retailers continue to accept that there's all of this friction within their shopping environments, I do think that those 90% numbers will start to trend downward in a more dramatic fashion.
Right. So let's talk about product movement now. And you mentioned this in your article about the advancements in RFID. Can you talk about that a little bit more?
Sure. So RFID has been around for a long time. There's always been this notion that if you can understand where every piece of inventory within your supply chain is, you can, start to optimize that entire process. Up until fairly recently, it's still been a little bit of a clunky process to understand in real time where that inventory is. There have been some enhancements with fixed RFID readers, which basically sit in the ceiling and give you information about the whereabouts of your product within a location, that start to unlock some, I think, really cool opportunity around understanding product movement in relation to human movement within your locations. So both Intel with their retail sensor platform and Impinj with their own fixed reader, have been developing this technology that allows you to start understanding at a more precise level where that product is in the store and where it moves. So if you think about the human movement that we already talked about, and then you start to layer into that what products are moving with the people in your store, you can really start understanding a lot of information about, why a particular product is or isn't moving. So if you know that, shoppers in your store are likely to pick up a red dress and a black dress, they both make it to the fitting room, the black dress is never purchased, you can start to understand if it's because of fit or because of price or because maybe it never makes it to the fitting room and it's in the wrong location. And through, the integration of all those data points, you can really drive initiatives within your store that either optimize markdowns or ensure that merchandising is in the right place, or just making sure you have the right inventory in your store.
Okay. Now, you mentioned Intel and Impinj. They have products that basically take the video and analyze it. As far as RetailNext is concerned, do you only provide software or do you also provide hardware?
Yeah, so just to be clear on the Impinj and the Intel, the primary focus of their platforms is to actually take that RFID information and to analyze that. So to give you the tracks and the movement of the product that is RFID tagged. Intel does have a video, they have a camera built into their retail sensor platform as well, and they're working to analyze shopper tracks through that platform. So, they're working on it, and we love the notion of being able to get all of that data in one device. But most of their efforts from a development perspective are around the RFID movement, just to make sure that that point is clear.
Okay.
From the RetailNext perspective, we are primarily a software company, and the biggest value we bring to the market is our ability to understand movement and pull that movement out of video and isolate it to answer specific questions, that may be related to traffic patterns or dwell or engagement or things like that. In the last year, we did release our first piece of hardware that we developed, which is the Aurora sensor, which is essentially an all-in-one measurement device that allows you to measure video, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and it's also a beacon. So retailers can really start to, bring down the technology footprint in their store. So running one cable instead of 4 or 5, and being able to understand all of that data kind of in the same view.
Okay. And then is there also a POS integration involved, or is that an option?
Yeah, so we integrate any type of structured data that our customers can give to us. So it might be point of sale data, it might be staffing data, it might be marketing merchandising calendars, things like that. So, we believe that when you start to put all of these different data points together in the same view, you can really, as I was saying before, start to unlock the value.
And then the RetailNext information or the analytics, the intelligence that is provided by your software, who actually uses it? Is it the retail sales associates in the store, the store managers, corporate?
Yeah, so the application has been built from the very beginning to give different slices of information to different people within the organization. So a store manager may have access to information about their specific store. And, that kind of filters all the way up to the CEO level. And, there's a lot of, there's a tremendous amount of ability within the product to, ensure that people within the organization are seeing the information that is most relevant to them.
Okay.
But it is definitely an enterprise application.
Okay, and then so that's the other question is what level of customers are you a good fit for somebody with 1 or 2 stores or above a certain number?
Yeah, I think that we certainly have customers who have 1 or 2 stores. Those are usually retailers or brands that are, larger organizations that are opening their first physical location. So it might be a retailer that has historically operated under a wholesale model that is starting to open stores. We also have a lot of 1 and 2 store retailers who are maybe digitally native brands that are opening stores so that they can better engage with their shoppers and expand their brand awareness. Most of our customers have 20 or more stores. I think if you're a mom and pop retailer with just one location, you probably work in that location. You probably have a really good sense of your customer and how they shop within your organization. So you might not need the type of data that's available today, but as soon as you start thinking about opening more stores, this type of information becomes increasingly critical. But our sweet spot, I would say, is retailers with 50 and more stores.
Okay, great. All right, so to wrap up, I'd like to go over the 8 steps or recommendations that you actually had for the retailers in your article from the Amazon Go development. So the first one is don't panic. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so I think that it will be some time before if ever, that Amazon owns the kind of grocery segment. So we understand that these technologies take some time to mature and to find out all of the friction points that we were talking about before, and to make sure that it is completely accurate, more accurate than checking out with a person within your environment. So I think time is in some ways on the side of physical retailers. But as I'm sure you'll get to, my second point is panic, because I do think that Amazon is out there to really disrupt the retail market in a way that it needs to be disrupted. So
Right.
don't panic because you have some time, but panic because you don't have an endless amount of time.
Don't sit and just thinking that time is going to save you.
That's right. That's
So,
right.
so the third one is make a plan.
Yeah, I think that you really have to be thinking about these enabling technologies and where you can use them to eliminate points of friction within your own retail environment. We're just coming out of the holiday season, and I think there'll be some mixed results this holiday season, but it's the time is now to think about how you're going to create a different type of shopping experience, going into holiday 2017, if you can believe it.
Yeah, you already need to plan for next year. So the next one is focus.
Yeah, I think starting with the employing the age-old 80/20 rule. If people are always waiting in line in your fitting room, then let's start with some technology that helps to eliminate that point of friction. Um, and every retailer has their own priorities from uh, uh, operational improvement perspective, I guess. So I think being focused on those and not trying to boil the ocean, as I like to say, is pretty important. Because
Right,
if you're a retailer, you probably get bombarded with micro applications that are looking to solve a very specific problem within your environment. And you really have to be able to sift through those and pull out the ones that are going to have the best impact for your operation.
right. And then be bold means
Yeah, I think like you were saying, some of these technologies may or may not work, but you have to be testing and you have to be innovating. And it's a little contradictory to focus, but at the same time, while you're focused on your biggest problems, don't be afraid to try a couple of things that may seem out of the box, because the data that you get from them may surprise you.
right. And then, engaging, I think you're talking about making sure you stay in touch with the partners and people that are actually innovating in your space.
Yeah, well, I think actually what I mean is within your own retail organization, if you are store operations, making sure you're engaging with your partners in loss prevention and in marketing, and in merchandising to, make sure that you're connecting the dots across functional areas. Because your customers will feel it if you're doing something that is, super innovative from a merchandising perspective, but it falls apart on the operations side. It almost moves you backwards.
Okay, great. And then education is an ongoing process.
Yeah, I think, the space is moving really quickly and what's available in the market will be different tomorrow than it is today. So staying abreast of the trends and, really knowing what's out there, I think will help prepare you to, address, points 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Right. And of course, the last one is probably the most fun, is go shopping.
Yeah, 'cause I'm surprised when I talk to retailers and I'm like, oh, have you seen what, Nike is doing in store? It's really innovative. They're doing some really cool things. And I get these blank stares. And I just think to myself, if you work in this business and you don't spend time in the mall or on the street going into stores, you're really missing an opportunity to see the technologies that will ultimately move the needle.
Awesome. Look forward to meeting at
Yeah.
NRF in New York. And
Yeah, forward to it. Thanks very much. It's an area that we're very passionate about. So it was a fun conversation to have.
awesome. Thank you very much, Bridget.
No problem. Bye-bye.